All right, everybody, welcome back for another uh, deep dive.
Yeah.
Today we are tackling something,
Yeah.
something that I think a lot of people have probably noticed, but maybe haven't thought about too much.
Mhm.
And that is this whole idea of like, you know,
Mhm.
when people are learning a new language,
Mhm.
sometimes it seems like certain sounds just really trip them up,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
You hear this all the time with, English language learners.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm sure if any of us have tried to learn a new language, I'm sure we've run into this ourselves.
Mhm.
But we are looking today specifically at this challenge for native Japanese speakers learning English.
Okay.
And we've got this really cool research that we're going to dive into to see if we can
Yeah.
figure out why this is.
Okay, cool.
So why is it that, for example,
Yeah.
a Japanese speaker learning English might mix up, words like rice and lice?
Interesting.
That's kind of the classic example, right?
Right. Yeah, you hear that one a
It's
lot.
like, why?
Yeah.
Why is that happening?
Well, I think it's really interesting because it all comes down to like the science of sound and language, right? Like the actual nuts and bolts of how we produce and perceive sounds. And this research highlights a really important
Yeah.
concept here, and that is the idea of phonemes.
Phonemes.
Yeah, phonemes. Now, these are like the building blocks of sounds in language.
Yeah.
Okay, the distinct units of sound that
No.
actually like differentiate meaning. So think about it this way, right? Like
Oh,
the words cat and hat,
right.
they're identical except for that one sound at the beginning, right? That one
Yeah.
phone makes all the difference.
Oh, okay.
Right? So in English, we hear and produce those two sounds, K and H, as distinct sounds.
Right.
They're separate phones that completely change the meaning of the word.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now you're probably thinking, okay, so how does this apply to Japanese speakers and the rice and lice conundrum?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, hold on, I'm getting to that.
Okay. So
I'm getting to that. So,
sorry.
so in English, R and L, those are considered separate phones, just like K and H.
Mhm.
We hear them as distinct sounds, and they change the meaning of words, right?
Right.
But here's the kicker in Japanese. Those two sounds, they're not considered separate phones.
Oh.
They're actually perceived as variations of the same sound.
Huh.
But for a Japanese speaker, rice and lice sound very similar.
So it's not even
That's their brain.
so it's not even necessarily that they're having a hard time like physically forming the sound.
It's the perception.
It's that they're not even hearing them as different.
It's all about the perception. Like their brains are literally wired differently.
Wow.
It's like they have a sound map based on the Japanese language, and now they're trying to learn English.
Right.
And their brains are like, wait a minute, these sounds that we thought were the same are actually different.
Yeah.
It's like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole.
That's wild.
Right.
That is so cool. So it's not just like a matter of like, practice makes perfect.
Well, practice definitely helps.
Yeah.
But it's deeper than that. It's
Yeah.
about rewiring your brain to perceive these sounds differently.
So like, okay.
Yeah.
So like what would be like a really common example then?
Oh, gosh. There are so many funny ones. I mean,
Like what would you actually hear?
yeah, like what would you actually hear? Well, I remember when I was in college, I had this Japanese friend,
Mhm.
and he used to always order fried rice at the restaurant
Oh God.
instead of fried rice.
Of course.
And it took us a while to figure out what he was saying.
Yeah, right.
But it's those kinds of things, right?
Well, I mean,
Like
they-
right becomes light, or vice versa.
Yeah.
Or sometimes you'll hear Japanese speakers say English instead of English
Right.
because that thought sound is just not quite there yet.
Right.
But, it's these little differences that can lead to some pretty funny misunderstandings.
Yeah, totally. And it's interesting too, because like I'm just thinking back to like,
Mm.
learning Spanish. Like I definitely remember mixing up the rolled R with the
Yeah.
regular R. And
Yeah,
and I remember it took me a while to even realize that
Right.
those were different.
totally.
I was like, what are you talking about?
It's like a whole new world opens up when you start to hear these differences.
So is there like anything that a Japanese speaker can do like to sort of overcome this challenge?
Absolutely. Yeah. There are definitely strategies and techniques out there.
Okay.
It often involves like, focused listening,
Mm-hmm.
practicing these minimal pairs that we talked about.
Oh, okay. So like rice and lice?
Exactly. Yeah. Words that differ by just that one phoneme.
Okay.
And, sometimes even visual aids can be helpful,
Oh, okay.
like looking at diagrams of the mouth and tongue placement.
Oh, that's cool.
It's all about retraining your brain to hear and produce those distinct sounds.
So it's like you're literally learning a whole new way of like hearing and speaking.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing when you think about it.
Yeah.
The brain's plasticity.
It really is like a superpower. So Wow. Okay, so I guess like the main thing we've learned here is
Yeah.
that different languages categorize sounds in different ways.
Absolutely.
And that can create these like unexpected challenges
Yeah,
when you're trying to learn a new language,
you got it.
which is just fascinating.
It is. And, I think it all comes back to this idea of how we perceive the world around us.
Mm-hmm.
Like, have you ever noticed how different accents can influence
Oh,
your perception of someone or something?
totally.
Like, maybe you find some accents charming and others difficult to understand?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And I think that's because our brains are so attuned to these subtle differences in sound systems.
Yeah.
It's like our brains are constantly trying to make sense of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And these sound systems, these phones, they play a huge role in that.
Yeah.
So the next time you hear someone struggling with a particular sound in English,
Yeah.
remember it's not just about pronunciation.
Right.
It's about their brain trying to navigate a whole new world of sound.
Wow, that is a perfect place to end it, I
Yeah.
think. So much to think about.
Absolutely.
That was awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, everyone, until next time.
See ya.